Sometimes your purpose is not found in what you do, but it's found in what God has for you to do in what you do, right? And Shedeur Sanders, who's if you look at the situation, if you know the situation, if you don't know, we'll go through it quickly. Shedeur Sanders, quarterback, Cleveland Browns, seems like he's been blackballed or some type of, something behind the scenes going on with the NFL that they don't want him playing for whatever reason. He slid down. He was a first round pick, said to be the best quarterback or the top two quarterbacks coming out of college. He slid to the fifth round. Why? People going, why? Deion Sanders' son. So people were saying maybe it's because Prime is so loud. Coach Prime is so loud that Shador slid to the bottom of the draft, and that's why he's having the struggles. The Cleveland Browns don't want to play him, it seems like. He's the fourth string quarterback. Obviously, talent-wise, he's the best quarterback on the team, probably. And they still not playing him. Then he goes out in the preseason game. Because of injuries, they were forced to play him. And he goes out there and he shows why he was one of the best quarterbacks in the draft. And everybody could see it. He comes back and they still saying, the team is still saying, we don't know if he's going to be a starter or if he's going to play at all. He's still fourth string. And so it makes us as fans go, well, what's the problem here? What's really going on? And I think I just found the truth behind this, man. And it's not what you guys think. I know a lot of us, we were like, oh, it's racism. They hate him because, and partially, I just don't think it's overt racism. I think it's covert racism. Meaning these are not skinheads that they're just overtly, like, there's two types of racism, right? And it's partially that. I'm not saying that that's the entire issue. This is more a business thing for the NFL and the Cleveland Browns, and nobody's reporting on this. There's been a couple of reports I'm going to show you guys, but this information came out, and I believe this is exactly why Shedeur Sanders is in the situation he's in. Some people think it's racism. It's more covert racism. The two types of racism are, hey, I hate you. I'm calling you the N-word in your face, screaming at you like that, wearing swastikas. There's that type of racism. And then there's covert. That's the overt. There's covert, where it's like when the black person moves next door and the neighborhood, they got the nice house in the neighborhood, go, how'd they get that house? What they do for a living? Well, there goes the neighborhood. Now they're starting to move into our neighborhoods. That's covert racism. They'll never come out in your face and say it. But behind the scenes, we don't really like that. And in business, it shows up a lot of times when they're cool with you they're cool with you being the entertainer. They're not cool with you being the owner. This is what we see when we talk about other things in entertainment. When we talk about Diddy, right? He started finding the issues that he was having. Not that he's a good person, he's a terrible person. But he started finding the issues legally and all that when he wanted ownership of the Ciroc brands and all that stuff. Like when he was just the face of it, entertaining and making money for them other people, it was cool. So I think that's the same situation that's going on with Shador. I'm going to show you guys some contract details and some things that are in his contract and some things that are going on in the business sense that may be contributing to why they're not letting him on that field and why it would be in the NFL's best interest to not let him on that field. Before we get started, you guys know how we do. We start the live streams every single way or every single time the same way. Got a few details to get through. And, this Shador thing, honestly, like, his purpose may be greater. What the purpose that he serves may be greater than just his career. So we're going to talk about it. We always start the live stream with a prayer, so we're going to start that way today. I always pray for you guys before we get started. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for another day, God. Thank you for everybody that's watching and listening. I ask that you bless them. Help them find their purpose, God. Help them find whatever you called them to do. God, I ask that you cover them, cover their minds, cover their families, cover their children, their loved ones, God, cover their souls. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen. All right, bro, we're about to get started into this. So, when Shador was about to be drafted, the NFL has a media empire, obviously. Like, they control the media on a lot of levels. So it was being said that things like this were the reason. Like, oh, they're arrogant. They're arrogant. And when you hear that arrogant stuff, it all makes sense, man. It all makes sense. There was a couple teams. Deion Sanders had a report previously before the draft where he said there was a couple of teams he wouldn't allow Shedeur to play for. And people felt offended by that in the NFL because they like allow him to play for, bro. We allow you to play. You don't allow him to play. Just the wording of that. If you know anything about these billionaire owners in the NFL, they don't like being told what to do. I don't know many rich people that do like being told what to do. I don't like being told what to do. You know, and when Deion Sanders made that statement, people going, oh, they're arrogant. But it never made sense why they will put that on Shador. And we'll get back to this in a second. It never made sense why they put the arrogance on Shador, because everybody that's watching go, damn, this kid is humble. Every time you hear him talk, he's saying something that sounds right. Right? So nobody understood arrogant. Where's that coming from? Until you understand this clause that Shedeur Sanders has in his contract. Said it's a groundbreaking rookie clause, or a groundbreaking clause in Shedeur Sanders' rookie deal that it rewrites the rules for the NFL. The Cleveland Browns rookie quarterback, Shedeur Sanders, has included a groundbreaking clause in his contract that could set a new standard in the NFL. Anytime a new standard is being set by a player, the NFL don't like that. This is why Shedeur fell in the draft. I want you guys to put all the puzzle pieces together on this. This is why it fell in the draft. Get you out of here. He fell in the draft because he's trying to do things in his contract to make it better for players moving forward. And that's why they're scared of Deion Sanders. When you hear the commissioner of the NFL saying things like this, check it out.
Hey, big guy. What's going on? How you doing, man? Hey, look. You doing all right? You gotta let my brother have his way in the league. Yeah, you gotta. I'm worried about your pop. So, how you doing? What you worried about him for?
I'm worried about your pops. What you worried about him for? Why would they be worried about Deion Sanders? Deion Sanders ain't gonna be on the field. Deion Sanders ain't gonna be taking the snaps. Deion Sanders retired. We're going to get back to this contract in a second. And what's in it. Right? But when the NFL commissioner is saying, I'm worried about your pops, that tells you it goes to the top. This is not just about the team, not about that team's owner, not just about the coaches or the players. This is going to the top of the NFL. Shedeur then offended somebody in that commissioner's office as well, the Shield. Right? And it's not necessarily that Shedeur did anything, but they're like he said, Roger Goodell himself said, I'm worried about your pops. That's the NFL commissioner that said that. So previously it was reported that when Shedeur Sanders slid in the draft, it was because he didn't have an agent. It said, the article says there's still some speculation over what caused the rookie quarterback to slide in the fifth round. And some around the NFL feel he could have benefited from having an experienced NFL agent. A reporter said, I did have a team share with me this morning that they wondered as an organization if Shedeur had an NFL agent with experience with the top quarterback entering the draft. If that agent would have provided maybe a little bit more insight into the preparation, into the process over the 3 months leading into the draft after their season, that way those interviews would go well. Basically, let me finish this. Said, rather than hiring a traditional NFL agent, Shedeur was guided by his father, Hall of Fame player Deion Sanders. Throughout the lead up to this year's draft, multiple reports revealed that the 23-year-old quarterback rubbed teams the wrong way during his interviews due to his overconfidence, which is something that could have been rectified if he had an agent who could have prepared him to approach things differently. Do y'all hear how silly this sounds? The reporter said, quote, I'm not blaming Deion. We know a lot of players who don't have agents, but I think in this situation, I think it could have helped him have a voice of someone who's done this before more recently. All that sounds like to me is we wanted somebody to tell him to stay in line. And he got his father up there telling him how it works behind the scenes and what he could do and the leverage that he has. Deion made Shedeur aware of his leverage. In business, in life, One of the most important things that you ever going to deal with is leverage. One of the most important things. You use leverage in your everyday life, in your relationships. You'll marry this person because they have the package that you want connected to the future that you want. So they have leverage. You'll choose to marry somebody because of what you offer and what you bring to the table. So you have leverage. Even on the playground, children use leverage. I'm going to pick this person to be on my basketball team. We playing basketball on the playground. I'm going to pick you to be on my team because you're a better player. So you have more leverage. And if you get on my team, I'll have more leverage to win the game. Everybody uses leverage. In business, leverage is the most important thing because that's where your negotiation comes from. What leverage do you have? Deion Sanders makes Shador, because of who Deion Sanders is, on all levels. He makes Shador and made Shador aware of his leverage. Bro, you one of the top quarterbacks in the draft. You don't get the opportunity to go back in and renegotiate this contract. Don't go with an agent. The NFL is mad that Shador didn't go with an agent because the agent would have been there to mediate in the sense of, hey, this is what they want, and they're not gonna budge, right? To kind of handle, they wanted Shador to have a handler, and Shador didn't have that. He still don't. From my understanding, he still don't have an agent because he don't need it. If I have somebody that's done it, which is my father, if you Shador, all I need is general counsel, meaning I need lawyers just to in general for general legal counsel. But I don't need somebody to come in here and tell me what I want in my contract. My dad did 100 of these contracts. The NFL wanted him to be a good old boy and go do it the way we tell you to do it, which is crazy because every player is their own business, right? So let's get back to this contract because it says that the Cleveland Brown rookie quarterback has included a groundbreaking clause in his contract that could set a new standard in the NFL. So he has leverage, and he tried to use his leverage, and he did use his leverage to get something put in his contract. He says, as uncertain as quarterback Shedeur Sanders' future is in the NFL right now, one thing is for sure, he's transformed how NFL contracts work, and he hasn't even taken his first snap. The NFL don't like that. Drafted in the 5th round by the Browns, Sanders signed a relatively modest $4.6 million rookie deal. But what sets it apart is a groundbreaking clause called prime equity that can make him one of the richest quarterbacks in NFL history. This is what it's all about. This is what the hatred is about right here. It's called the prime equity clause. Now, people say, I see you in the chat saying, that's weird. Arch Manning told the Chargers Eli was not playing for them. Eli went to the Giants. Facts, right? And that is facts. The difference is Eli wasn't trying to change the landscape of players having equity in the team that they play for. So picture this. Eli Manning, Arch Manning, goes in and say, my son is not coming here or any team unless you put in the contract that he gets equity of the team or equity of himself and equity of the team, depending on how the team does. If he hits these benchmarks, he gets equity of the team, ownership of the team. You don't just get to use my son's brand. This is what they're saying about Shedor's clause. You don't just get to use my son's brand, Deion says, because I know your team is not doing nothing. And this is why it infuriates the Browns when people on social media are like, I'm cutting the game off when Shedor's off. Shedeur knew his value going in. He knew that people are only going to be watching the Browns because of me. So every time reports come out, every time we as fans support Shedeur and we say, bro, I watched the preseason game until Shedeur got on the field and then I cut that shit off. Every time you do that, the Browns is furious because they know that Shedeur is right. They know that Deion is right. Every time Shedeur is on that field, every time he does well, it makes him look like the leverage that he used or the leverage he assumed he had was correct. And this is why they're saying he needs to be humble. So let's go through this real quick. Let's talk about this prime equity deal. It says, what is prime equity? Explaining the clause that breaks down breaks the mold. The prime equity clause gives Shedeur Sanders a percentage of all revenue generated from merchandise, sponsorships, and promotions tied to his name, image, and likeness. This includes, essentially, it's the first NFL NIL. Shedeur Sanders has the first NFL NIL deal. Said this includes a share of sales from jerseys, apparel, and slogans. A move that turns Sanders into a business partner rather than just a player. Now everybody can understand why the NFL, now it makes sense. Oh, this is why the NFL, this is why they don't want him to be on the field. This is why they're trying to silence him. This is why they're trying to keep his brand from growing. Because he's going to own everything attached to him. He gets a share of sales from the jersey, a share of sales from the apparel that they sell if they use his name, image, or likeness. If he create any slogans that are created around Shedeur Sanders, they get a percentage. Shedeur does, and the Sanders family does. This is why it says it's a move that turns him into a business partner rather than just a player. Now he's not just. So think about this. If you're going into the draft and you're a team, this is why the Saints passed on him, even though they probably needed him. This is why the Raiders will pass on him, even though they probably needed him for the future. This is why a lot of teams probably passed on him, and this is why he fell in the draft until the Browns like, bro, we're not going to get nobody else as good as Shedeur. We need a quarterback. And this is why the owner, which we'll get into, is saying what he's saying. When you break it down, it all makes sense. Oh, they don't want him on the field because the more his brand grows, the more they got to give him equity. He got equity on all things concerning him. They're not used to that. They're used to players coming in. You be happy you be happy you made it to the NFL, boy. You get to buy your mama a house. Be happy with it. They're not used to you coming in with your own money and you got a dad that's a Hall of Famer and that father is active in your life and saying, no, my son gets this. This essentially is the Michael Jordan deal. When Michael Jordan was doing the deal with Nike and his mom, and I'm not saying it's the same terms, but it's the same kind of groundbreaking deal. Where Michael Jordan's mom was like, no, my son's going to get a percentage of every shoe sold. And Nike like, no, we don't do that. We've never done that. We don't do that for any player. And Michael Jordan's mom like, you're going to do it for my son. Because if he does what I know he's going to do, you guys will be benefiting off of his name, not the other way around. And Deion is betting on Shedeur the same way. If my son come in here and do what I think he's going to do, y'all going to be benefiting off his name, not the other way around. The Cleveland Browns, Shedeur Sanders does not benefit by being a Cleveland Brown. He could have been on any team. But the Cleveland Browns benefit by Shedeur Sanders being a Cleveland Brown. Fact or fiction? So Prime understood that going in and said, my son has a different leverage. And because of the Michael Jordan story and what happened with Michael Jordan becoming a billionaire, a precedent was set was, we'll never let that happen again. In hip hop, let me give you a hip hop analogy, right? In hip hop, this is when 50 Cent came out and he did a vitamin water deal, right? And before that, record labels never saw anybody come out and get that type of business deal. 50 bought vitamin water. I took a quart of water, sold it in bottle for $2. Coca-Cola came and bought it for billions. What the? They never seen that in hip hop. That's a hip hop analogy. So what happened after that? The industry, hip hop industry, music industry said, we're never going to let that happen again. No rapper will ever come, sign to us as a record label, then go do a brand deal and make hundreds of millions of dollars without us getting a percentage. So they implemented 360 deals. You could thank 50 Cent in the music industry for 360 deals. Because those were implemented because the industry said we're never going to allow this to happen again. Same thing they did with Michael Jordan. We're never going to allow this to happen again, right? Or other sports industries, maybe not the NBA, but other sports was like, oh no, we'll never give a player that much power. Why is Tom Brady not a partial owner of the Patriots? Right? I mean, when you think of the Patriots, you only think of Tom Brady. Why is he not a partial owner of the Patriots? Think about that. Why is Jerry Rice not a partial owner of the 49ers? Why is Ray Lewis not I don't know if he is, but I'm just assuming Ray's not a partial owner of the Baltimore Ravens. But Ray Lewis should be a partial owner of the Baltimore Ravens. LaDainian Tomlinson. Chargers. These mega players, like these players that are the faces of these franchise forever, no matter who comes through here. Lawrence Taylor with the Giants, right? Like, some players are just bigger than the team. Deion Sanders believes that Shedeur Sanders is bigger than any team that drafts him. This is why he falls in the draft. This is why the Saints don't take him. This is why the Raiders don't take him. Because you're asking for a clause, even though we believe that you're a talented player. One, we want to humble you. We want to make you feel like maybe you're not as talented. We're going to put it out in the media that he's not that good. We're going to put it out in the media that he interviewed bad. He didn't interview bad. It had nothing to do with X's and O's. Had nothing to do with football. Right? Said Tom owns some of the Raiders. Yeah, and Tom had to go negotiate. That's because Tom from the Bay. Salute to California. We got all the best. Tom from the Bay. But if you go look at Tom's deal with the Raiders, you'll understand that it's a small percentage. Like, it's a small percentage deal, and it's more so like, yo, you're just gonna be here giving a little bit of advice on players. Like, you're not. But why does Tom Brady have to go get ownership from the Raiders instead of the Patriots when he just gave 20 years to the Patriots pretty much and made them all that money? Name a Patriots jersey that's being sold outside of Tom Brady's for real over the last 50 years. So Tom Brady is bigger than the Patriots, which he proved when he went to Tampa. He should have ownership of the Patriots. Why does he have to go all the way back home to Oakland? Right? Which they the Vegas Raiders now. But why does he have to go back home to the Raiders? So back to this deal. Shedeur Sanders has a prime equity clause. The prime equity clause gives Sanders a percentage of all revenue generated from merchandise, sponsorships, and promotion tied to his name, image, and likeness. This includes a share of sales from jerseys, apparel, and slogans, a move that turns Sanders into a business partner rather than just a player. Right? Says this is already paid off. Shedeur's rookie jersey has reportedly hit $250 million in sales, earning him $14 million in commission, which far exceeds most rookie earnings. In addition, he retains full ownership of all his personal media content. This is why you see Shedeur has his own cameraman behind the scenes. Bucky and all them behind the scenes filming everything. Then when you see him check the reporter over last weekend, did y'all catch that video? Where Shedeur's like, yo, why don't say nothing positive about me? That's being filmed by his brother. And then you see Prime on Instagram. Let me pull that up. Let me pull that up, man. Coach Prime was on Instagram praising Bucky. Right? And he was like, this is the only one. This is my son. He go take care of his brother and then came back. Let me see if I can pull that video up. Here we go. Check this out.
Go get back.
Happy birthday.
He's the only son to go take care of his brother and come back to show love to his father. That's why you number one.
He talking to Bucky behind the camera. You went up there, you took care of your brother, you filmed everything, and then you came back to show love to me. Cool, right? But Bucky is able to be behind the scenes that way because it's in Shedeur's contract that he controls his own media. Why? Why would Shedeur want to control his own media? Because then I could paint my own narratives, and then I can let you guys hear my side. We would have never heard Shedeur's side of the story had Deion Sanders Sr. not been wise enough to say, no, my son is going to need his own media team. We'd have never heard what would have happened was the NFL would have said he's not that good. We would have never been able to see, dang, he killing them in practice. Why they not playing him? We'd have never saw that. So Shedeur has his own media team, and that's in his contract that he retains full ownership of all his personal media content and digital platforms, including his Instagram, his YouTube, Twitch, and everything else. Trip off this. Something you guys don't know behind the scenes in business that happens a lot when you get to a certain level. You guys might not notice. This is what really happens. The first thing you do when they go to negotiation is they go, we want your YouTube. I've had deals where they've asked me, hey, we'll do the deal, but we want you to sell your YouTube to us. I have 5 channels, all monetized, right? And I have a company, you guys always see it scrolling at the bottom of the screen, ULegend, ulgnd.com, right? Where we teach people personal branding. So when I've been in a negotiation where I'm sitting down and they're like, yeah, we'll do the deal. We'll give you this much money. Back then too, it was some BS money. It was like maybe $40,000. I was like, this is a waste of my time. But it was like, we'll give you $47,000, but we want ownership of the YouTube. But you keep working it. Basically, they were trying to make me an employee of my channel for $47,000. Get out of here. But in business, people understand how valuable your own platform is, especially because it builds and it grows over time. And in this situation, right, him retaining full ownership of all his personal media content, that means he could post NFL, he could post this stuff because the NFL would normally flag it, take it down. If you post a highlight, if you post a clip, if you post something behind the scenes, flag it, take it down. That's ownership of the NFL. With Shador, he owns it. So, bro, I can paint my own narratives on my channels, my Instagram, my YouTube, whatever it is. The article says even his half brother, Deion Sanders Jr., is allowed to produce behind-the-scenes content under a unique NFL media rights arrangement. So Deion Sanders negotiated for Shador, and I'm sure I think Shiloh went and got an agent, Drew Rosenhaus. But he negotiated for Shador. His brother is going to be his media team. And I want that in the contract. This is the truth. This is the truth on why they treating Shador the way they treating him. See, you follow the money, you always gonna get to the truth. Follow the money. It's going to lead you to the truth. I'm telling you, every single time. So this is where the hatred is coming from. This is why the NFL commissioner is saying this.
Hey, big guy. What's going on?
How you doing, bro?
Hey, look.
You doing all right?
You got to let my brother have his way in the league. Yeah, you got.
I'm worried about your pop. So, how you doing?
What you worried about him for?
I'm worried about your pop. This is why. Because all this stuff is groundbreaking stuff in this deal. Right? So it says Deion Sanders Jr., Bucky, Shador's brother, is in the contract. It says he's allowed to produce the behind-the-scenes content under a unique NFL media rights arrangement. Another unique clause. The article says by blending personal branding. I keep telling y'all, I developed a company helping you guys build personal brands, and we don't even have no products to sell. We just give all the information away for free. You can go to the website right now and go get you a free branding toolkit or go watch the free masterclass. I just updated this brand new masterclass on personal branding called From Stuck to Seven Figures. All that stuff, we give the information away, no cost. And the website's scrolling at the bottom of the screen. It's also pinned in the chat. Check it out. But I keep telling y'all, personal branding is one of the best things that you can do in business. It's made me a millionaire. It's made many people millionaires. And it's what sustained you because these platforms are up and down. You don't know how many views you're going to get tomorrow when you creating content. So you need to have a strong personal brand in case TikTok shuts down, right? Or in case you can't never be blackballed in Shedeur Sanders' case because he's in control fully of his business, of his personal brand. The article says by blending personal branding, media ownership, and performance incentives, Sanders' deal is already being seen as a potential game changer for athlete contracts overall. It represents a shift in power towards players as entrepreneurs and could set a new standard for future stars across all sports. This is why they hate Shedeur Sanders. This is what it's about, man. It's that the things that he's coming in negotiating have never been done before. They always want it, and they like it for players to stay in a position of servitude. Hey, you come in, you run fast, you jump high, you say yes, sir, no, sir, and we'll tell you what you're allowed to have. You don't believe that? Go look at Jerry Jones and Micah Parsons. Right now, the negotiation that's going back and forth between them. Jerry like, yo, do what we say, bro. And that's it. And he's offended that Micah Parsons has his own opinion on himself. So you surely, if Micah Parsons, who's proven himself, is dealing with that, surely you can imagine how the NFL feels about Shedeur Sanders. Even the commissioner is saying, I'm worried about your pops. Why would he be worried about Deion? Deion ain't playing. He's worried about Deion because Deion has information. And information creates awareness, and awareness creates leverage. I always tell you guys, this is how I teach it to all my clients. Exposure, experiences, expectation. It's three parts, right? Exposure, experience, expectation. When you increase your exposure, when you're exposed to different things, meaning you change the ecosystem, then you'll have a different level of experiences. And because your experiences are different, your expectations will change. You expect different because you have a different set of experiences. And Deion Sanders has been exposed. And because of his experiences, Shedeur Sanders has a different expectation. So their awareness level is higher. And that's why they hate him. This is why, and when you zoom out and you understand the details of Shedeur Sanders' contract, it makes sense. Oh, don't play him. Don't put him on the field. Because everything we do, and this is why God is so good, man. Because just like in the story of Joseph, when Joseph told his brothers at the end, when they tried to kill him, and he ended up becoming the prime minister of Egypt, and Joseph said, it's okay, because what you meant for evil, God turned and used for the good. See, they trying not to put Shedeur on the field, but that's making his brand bigger. They're trying to suppress his brand, but that's making his brand bigger. Don't put him on the field. Don't play him. That's making people go, oh, I'm not supporting the Browns, which is proving his point, which is, I know what I'm about to get out here and do, and I know what I mean. You remember and this is why Shedeur is saying when he did the press conference at the NFL Combine. Let me see if I can pull that up for y'all. You remember when Shedeur said, I know how I affect culture? He said, I know what I bring to the table. I know how I affect culture. This is before the draft. See if I can pull it up for you guys. And then people were saying, oh, his confidence, this. I want y'all to be aware of how they use business things. And they take it personally, and then they try to make it like it's something else. But really, it's just about the money. It's about the business. Because if we allow him to do this, the next player that comes out and is the number one overall consensus pick, what is he going to do and expect? If you remember in the NFL Combine, before the draft, Shedeur Sanders spoke about changing the culture of an NFL team and said, I've done it over and over and over. Shedeur Sanders is quite confident in his abilities, the article says, especially when it comes to translating to the NFL in a few short months. The former Colorado and Jackson State quarterback said that he can change the culture and the fate of a franchise looking to select him. Based on his track record, he might be pretty darn accurate. He's changed the culture of Jackson State. He changed the culture of Colorado. So he feels like I'm coming in here to change the culture. He said, quote, that's the plan. If that's not what you're trying to do, don't get me. Don't pick me. He said, if you're not trying to change the franchise or the culture, don't get me. You should know history repeats itself over and over and over, and I've done it over and over and over. So there should be no question why an NFL franchise should want to pick me. That's what Shedeur said. Now, when you couple that, see, back then we didn't understand what he was asking for in his contract. When you couple that information that I just gave you guys, right? And you put that with, oh, he's also asking for this prime equity deal where they're not going to be able to benefit. Every time the team hits benchmarks, he gets paid more and he hits benchmarks. And y'all not going to control my name, image, and likeness. So it's now no more licensing deals. You can't just use my name and then license it to Nike, New Era, or whatever. And y'all get paid and I don't. Also, y'all not going to control my narrative. I'm going to control my own narrative. I want my own media team, and I want that in my contract. I want my brother to be my media team, and y'all not going to have ownership of my YouTube, Instagram, and all that. Have you ever noticed there's a lot of NFL players that don't have a personal brand? Isn't that kind of crazy? Odell Beckham has one. Like, you see a few players with a personal brand, but a lot of them, They play, they put that helmet on, and then they're not allowed. It's almost like they're not. I'm not gonna say they're not allowed because I don't know their contracts, but it seems like they're not allowed to build no personal nothing around their name. Just play for the jersey, bro. Play for the name on the front of the jersey. And you see that a lot more in the NFL than you see it in the NBA or any other sport. Everybody else is like, you would think the NFL players will be more focused on personal branding because they have to wear helmets all day. So if you don't get online and develop some type of personal brand to go get those deals outside of the sport, then you're just relying on the NFL to pay your bills. And you might only play 5 years at the most. A lot of the average NFL career is 3 years. So you're relying on the team to take care of you. And who out here, everybody, we all own businesses and work jobs. Can you work for 3 years and pay your bills for the rest of your life? No. So you would think that more players will be trying to use the platform that they have to build more personal brands, but you don't see it in the NFL. And maybe that's because a lot of them don't have these type of contracts that Shedeur Sanders has. Maybe it's because a lot of them don't own their NIL, their name, image, and likeness. It says the clause that Shedeur, the prime equity clause, gave him a percentage of all the revenue generated from merchandise, sponsorships, and promotions tied to his name or his image or his likeness. So when Nike is putting that picture up, Shedeur, and they put the picture up after he plays the game and he's like this and they got the slogan up top, he gets a percentage of that money. He get paid for that. Nike pays a licensing deal to the NFL and the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns has to pay Shedeur a percentage of that licensing deal. This is why they hate him. As his brand grows, he gets more leverage. And I told y'all before, earlier in the live, in business, nobody wants to give up leverage. So as Shedeur's brand grows, he gets more leverage. And if that was the contract that he was throwing around, which I'm sure it is based on the things that now we can look back and go, 2020 is hindsight. So we can look back and say, oh, during the combine, Shedeur said he knew he was changing the culture of a franchise. During the draft, Deion said there's a couple teams that I won't let him go play for. And people try to make it about all these things. Even when you hear like Ryan Clark recently, right? Ryan Clark was getting on the NFL owner, the Cleveland Browns owner. Look at this report. Salute to Ryan Clark. Ryan Clark rips into the Browns ownership after Shedeur Sanders' NFL debut. We all know what Shedeur Sanders did in the preseason game. He played his butt off. The article says his performance, here it is. His performance drew a strong reaction from Ryan Clark, former NFL player and current ESPN analyst. Clark used the moment to take aim at the Browns owner, Jimmy Haslam, referencing Haslam's comments when he distanced himself from the pick, saying it was the general manager, Andrew Berry's decision. He said, if you would have told me y'all are going to pick Shedeur Sanders, I would say that's not happening. Andrew Berry made the call to pick Shedeur, Haslam said. And the reason that, let me let y'all hear what he said, and I'm going to give you guys understanding after.
If you'd have told me, so we picked him on Saturday, right? Friday night driving home, y'all are going to pick Shedeur, I would say that's not happening. But we had a conversation early that morning, and then we had a conversation later that day. I think we had the right people involved in the conversation. At the end of the day, that's Andrew Berry's call. Andrew made the call to pick Shedeur. Just like who's going to start or what play we're going to call is Kevin's call. But that's Andrew's call. He made the call.
That's Andrew's call. He made the call. Andrew Berry, GM. Right? So he's distancing himself from it. And it makes sense now if you look at the situation, because he would want himself from it. Why? Why would he want to distance himself from the Shedeur thing? Well, the reason that Browns owner Jimmy Haslam will want to distance himself from Shedeur and say that it wasn't my pick, it was Andrew Berry's, is because he has to go sit with other owners. Does that make sense to everybody? if I got to go sit in the face of my peers and I'm the owner of the team that allowed this to happen when we all agreed that we wouldn't allow this to happen, allow this kind of contract to happen, I'm going to distance myself from it too. Not literally me, but that's how he feels. The owner of the Browns is like, yo, I had nothing to do with the Shedeur pick. Because the other owners are going to be like, why you do that? Why you let him get that deal? We were supposed to collude and block him from getting in the NFL so until he decides that he's going to take those clauses out of his contract. Now, Deion and Shador probably can't come forward and say that this is what it's about. But I can. I'm telling y'all, I believe this is what it's about. Because it don't make no other. This is the only thing that makes sense. It's always about the money. My grandmother told me that. It's always about the money. I don't think Deion being, I don't know if he's still Shedeur agent, but I know the report said that Shedeur don't have an agent. So we know Deion's still advising behind the scenes. And this is why you see a little bit more leniency on Shiloh than you see on Shedeur. Because Shiloh went and got an agent, Drew Rosenhaus. Why is Shedeur still getting the press, the bad press? Why is Shedeur still getting press, around the NFL the way he is? Because he still don't have an agent. They want him to go say, get an agent, they want Shedeur to get an agent so they have somebody in a situation that they can control because they need leverage. That's business. That's why I say it's covert racism. We don't want to give no body that looks like you leverage. Who do you think you are? You're arrogant. Humble yourself. Because you think that you should own your own name, image, and likeness, and we should. We bought you, boy. That's how they feel. That's how they feel. And this is why. When the Saints are drafting Tyler, whatever his name is, that he has no business being drafted where he was drafted. But they'll take him. This is why teams that it didn't make sense. Why are you passing? Why is the Steelers passing on him? Who's on the Steelers? What quarterback is better than Shedeur on the Steelers? Obviously, they went and got Aaron Rodgers after all that. But for the future, it wouldn't have been wise to have Shedeur learn from Aaron Rodgers, who's notoriously a great mentor. Some quarterbacks in the NFL don't like to mentor players because they're like, oh, I'm teaching you how to take my job. Aaron Rodgers dealt with that with Brett Favre, so he don't have no problem teaching quarterbacks. He like, yo, I remember how it felt to be next up, and the starter didn't want to help me. Brett Favre was a jerk to me. So I always help people. So why wouldn't I draft Shedeur if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers? Let him learn behind Aaron Rodgers for a year or two. It would only be because of business. It's not personal in that sense. It's not because Shedeur did anything wrong. I want y'all to be aware of this. It's not because he did nothing wrong. It's not because he was arrogant. It's not because he can't play. It's not because of none of that. It's because he's asking for special things in his contract, and he got it. He wanted his brother to be his media team. He got it. I don't want y'all to make money off of me unless if y'all do well, especially because, it's a poverty franchise, bro. Y'all trash. Y'all been trash, notoriously trash. Nobody watch y'all games. Nobody care about y'all. Ever. Even when y'all make the playoffs, people don't watch. People be like, oh, this is a boring game. It's the playoffs, and you nobody cares. You a poverty franchise, Jimmy Haslam. So Shedeur knew one of these poverty franchises is about to draft me. And I'm going to make their team 10 times as popular as what it was before I got there because I'm Shedeur Sanders. I believe in myself that way. My dad's already told me who I was all my life. And I won't allow you to let me think any differently. Matter of fact, instead of hiring an agent, Dad, I want you to be my agent because you already know how these contracts work. All I need is general counsel from a lawyer. Basically, somebody to read paperwork before I sign it. But my pops is my agent. I'm going to ask, this is what I'm asking for y'all to draft me. I'm going to come in, I'm going to play my butt off. I'm going to give y'all everything I got. I'm going to change the culture of your franchise. This is what Shedeur is saying. In order for me to do that, I need a percentage of all the revenue that y'all generate Not the whole thing. Just give me a percentage. Y'all don't get to make 100% of the revenue. No, give me a percentage of the revenue that I generate from merchandise, sponsorships, and promotion. And I don't even want the whole team. I don't want the revenue. I don't want a percentage from what the team makes. I want a percentage from what y'all make off me. Not from what y'all make, only the stuff that's tied to my name, image, and likeness. And I want to include a share of sales from jerseys, apparel, and slogans. You can't sell a Shedeur Sanders t-shirt without giving me a percentage of that money. I'm not like these other guys. I don't want you to, I'm not going for that. You can't sell a Shedeur Sanders replica watch without giving me a percentage of it. I'm not like these other guys. I'm not like nothing you've seen before me. I'm setting a new precedent. So you come in trying to set a new precedent and they go, oh, you arrogant. Who? You ain't even played yet. You ain't even took a snap. We don't even know if you could play. What happens? Man, put him on the bench until he does what we want him to do. So they're trying to break him. In reality, that's what's really going on. They're trying to break him so he won't ask for so much next time. Humble yourself. If you don't, we will. That's how the NFL is doing them. And now it's just the Browns doing them like that. But I'm sure the NFL commissioner's office is calling the Browns like, hey, you make sure you humble him. What's going on down there? Get it under control. We're not going to have a situation like what Michael Jordan did in the NBA, where we got to give up all our money to the players, which is crazy. But the NFL hates the way, by the way, the NFL hates the way the NBA handles things. The NBA is much more progressive when it comes to player inclusion. The NFL is much more archaic when it comes to including players and treating players like their own businesses. NFL don't want to do that. So Shedeur goes and negotiates that. And bingo, what happens? As soon as the fans get wind of Shedeur Sanders is being blackballed, everybody go buy his jersey. What does that do? Proves Deion and Shador right. See, I control culture. My rookie jersey gets sold. It says that it hit $250 million in sale, and Shador got $14 million. So the contract negotiation paid off right away. And that said, it far exceeds what most rookie earnings were. So all the other rookies didn't make nothing close to what Shador made off of his jersey sale, because they didn't negotiate this type of deal for themselves. And then it says he still retains the full ownership of his personal media content and his digital platforms, Instagram, YouTube, etc. So not only is he making money off of the jersey sales and everything else his name is on, that's why he ain't tripping on. Y'all want to draft me in the fourth? This is why they pushed him down to the fifth round, because you're not going to make the big money off of the contract and get all this in the contract. We're going to balance this out. Now it makes sense why he would slide to the fifth round. It has nothing to do with talent. It has nothing to do with football or nothing to do with ability. It has everything to do with, we got to level this out. So let him slide to the fifth round before we draft him. And then when it was reported, if you remember, during the draft, it was reported that the Eagles were going to trade up to take Shedeur and have him as a backup to Jalen Hurts. And that's when the Browns traded up and hurried up and traded up to get him. But it didn't make sense, because it was like, why would the Browns trade up to get him when they had an opportunity to draft him this whole draft? If you look at this situation now, it makes perfect sense. We passed on him, because ain't nobody else going to take him. Nobody else want to take that deal. Then you get wind, oh, the Eagles is about to take him? Trade up, get him. Why? Because if I'm a GM and it's a black GM, general manager of the team, Andrew Berry, if we don't succeed, I'm fired. Period. So that black GM, who we don't get a lot of black GMs in the NFL, we don't get those seats a lot. He said, I don't care what they talking about. I'm taking Shedeur because I need somebody that's going to help us win, despite what the owner is saying. So I'm kind of looking at first I was looking at Andrew Berry like he was in the house and we was in the field. Now I'm kind of looking at it like maybe he was just frustrated the day of the draft because of how they were telling him he couldn't draft Shador. Maybe he was fighting for 4 rounds to be like, bro, I got to take him. He's the best quarterback. Like, if I don't take him, I'm not going to have a job. We're not going to win. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe the reactions and all that we saw was because of the frustration that he was dealing with the coach and the owner. Maybe. But what I do know is, as a GM, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, you're getting fired. Especially as a black one. That's the covert racism again. Put you in the, we're going to give you the keys to the boat, but we're going to poke a hole in the bottom of it. That's the covert racism. So when Shador comes in here and says, you know, I want this and I want to own my media content, meaning y'all can't make narratives about me that I can't combat. Because if the NFL owns his media rights, then when they put a story out about him, if he goes to defend himself, they just say, take that down because we own him. That's the copyright infringement. We own him. We own his image, name, image, and likeness. Take that down. Matter of fact, what's the password to his YouTube? We're just going to take control of that. But he negotiated it into his contract. And it's also in his contract, the article says that his brother, that Bucky, Deion Sanders Jr., is the one that's allowed to produce the behind-the-scenes content under a unique NFL media rights arrangement. This is a groundbreaking deal for Bucky as well. Who in the NFL can have their own personal cameraman walking around behind the scenes with a press pass, getting their own footage to put out? Y'all not about to, Deion Sanders Sr. said, y'all not about to spin the narrative on my son. I'm going to control the narrative on my son. My son going to control the narrative on him. And it's going to set a precedent for players coming after him. That, well, y'all gave it to Shador. Why you can't give it to me? I'm better than Shador was coming out. This is what it's really about, you guys. The article says, by blending personal branding, media, ownership, and performance incentives, Sanders' deal is already being seen as a potential game changer for athlete contracts. It represents a shift in power towards players as entrepreneurs and could set a new standard for future stars across all sports. What Shedeur Sanders is doing is going to affect everybody across all sports. And this is why I say, sometimes purpose, all times, purpose is not found in the job that you do. The Bible says all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. See, we have a purpose for what we want in our lives, right? But the scripture don't say that all things are working together for the good of those who are called according to their purpose. It says it's working for the good of those who are called according to his purpose. So you may be a football player, but God got something bigger. So things are going to work together for Shador. And all things are going to work out for him. And like I said, even in the story of Joseph, the things that they mean for evil, God turns around for the good. You put him on the bench, and that made him more popular. You put him fourth string, that made him more popular. The more y'all do him wrong, the more popular he get. Which proves his point about him being able to control the culture. Which means he has leverage. Because what y'all meant for evil, God turning around for the good. Sometimes we don't find purpose in our job. We find purpose in the purpose that God has for us in that job. You might be working a job right now where you like, yo, I don't understand like why God got me here. Somebody, you going to bless some people there. Shador is about to change things for athletes, for young athletes. There's a 15-year-old right now that's going to be in the NFL, and things are going to be different because Shedeur Sanders played. It's bigger than football. Deion Sanders, Hall of Famer, one of probably the greatest athlete of all time, right next to Bo Jackson. Because Deion Sanders played, the purpose for which it wasn't just so he could be an NFL player, it's so you could change things in the future for other kids forever. Because all things work together for the good of those who are called according to his purpose, not our purpose, not your purpose, not my purpose, not their purpose. No, God's purpose. So when God has, in other words, when God has a plan, ain't nobody gonna stop it. And it may feel like you hurting them if you were Shedeur Sanders, right? Oh, you hurting them. And this is a lesson that we all could take and we all should be taking out of this situation for ourselves. It may look like you hurting them. You're not letting them play. You're not letting them practice. You're not putting them out there with the first team. You're not doing certain things. Yeah, it looked like you hurting them. But God. Because he has a purpose. And whether you like it or not, all things are going to work together for the good of those who are called to it. Shedeur Sanders, very vocal about loving God. Deion Sanders, very vocal about loving God and obedience to God. Not just because there's a difference between loving and knowing that God is God and being obedient to him. These men seem to be obedient to God. All things are going to work out. Promise you. Promise you. Hit that like button on your way out. That's all I got for you guys on this live stream. I know I took a little bit of a break. We're getting back to the content, but I want to bring that to you guys today and send that message. Go check it out. Go check out the website, ulgnd.com, ulegend.com, ulegend.com, ulgnd.com. And go over there and get some resources, some free resources to help you start building your personal brand and developing yourself for the purpose that you were created for, and building a business and making some money doing what you love. And even if you're working a job, go over there and learn how to do it better and find purpose in it. Because we all created for a purpose. We all created for a purpose. Check the website out. I hope that God blesses you guys. Hope that God blesses your family. I hope that you were not just entertained, but educated by some of the information we shared here today. And I'll see you guys on the next live stream. Make sure you turn your notifications on so you don't miss it. I always got a message for you guys. God bless. See you guys next time.